Yo, guys. Today, I'm diving into the epic start of this story. Brace yourselves. In the world of magic and power where beast ravage human, there was village full succubi woman where any man that enters will get suck and drain till death. However, the protagonist was an exception. The summon of him caused the heaven and the earth to shake, which is all thanks to his awakened blood system. For every female's blood he absorbed, he would randomly gain a stat point, and so he went on to drink from every single girl in the succubus village. The protagonist boys his name Harem. So, it all kicks off in the year 2025, when a powerful energy burst on Earth's surface opened a channel to other dimensions, allowing countless beasts that had only existed in fiction to pour into the world. Humanity was plunged into a bitter struggle against these beasts, as conventional firearms proved largely ineffective. To combat these otherworldly monsters, some humans unexpectedly evolved. In City J, pouring rain everywhere. A huge, modern hospital building, lights reflecting off the wet streets, and there's Harem, our main guy, just standing there in the rain, clutching a yellow envelope. And let me tell you, this isn't just any envelope. It's tied to a past full of tragedy. Turns out, when Lee was just 6, his parents were killed in a battle between these insane creatures called awakened beings and monstrous beasts. Yeah, rough start. You can see it in his eyes. Dark, spiky hair, striking red eyes, and a look that screams, "I've seen too much." He spent his childhood bouncing between relatives' homes, facing nothing but cold stares, loneliness, and a lot of pain. Then, the story hits another layer of tragedy. Harem has something called anomaly syndrome, a fatal disease caused by interdimensional energy. His medical papers literally say it eats away at the body until it kills you. Brutal. But even with this ticking time bomb inside him, he makes a promise to survive for his sister and to honor his mother's last wish. Fast forward a few days, and we're in the suburbs of City J. The scene totally changes. Lush forests, bright skies, a perfect setup for action. Lee joins a group of elite fighters who are gearing up to exterminate a lair of level 1 monsters. Alright guys, the action really kicks off here. The team's leader, Rapid Cyclone Shinzijin, is laying down the plan. He's this total powerhouse. Purple outfit, red scarf, steel level evolution, and he's basically saying, level 1 monsters? Easy. Stick to the plan and we're golden. You can feel the confidence radiating off him. The whole squad is hyped, ready to go. There's this muscular guy in a tank top practically bouncing with excitement. He's itching for a fight. The woman in white, everyone else, they're all pumped. And then there's Harem, carrying this absurdly huge brown supply bag. Chun Zijin reminds him, "You're the only non-awakened here. Remember your role." And Harem, calm as ever, "Yeah, I got it." Now, being a porter might sound boring, but it's actually crucial. Harem's job. He doesn't fight. He carries supplies, protects provisions, and grabs loot from monsters the team defeats. But don't let that fool you, he's not some weakling. His red eyes show determination, and he's thinking, "Don't worry, this isn't my first rodeo," which tells you he's got skills hidden under that ordinary human exterior. Then chaos hits, combat erupts, and the team moves like a well-oiled machine. Chun Zijin slashes at a giant horned green monster with a dagger, blood flying everywhere. The muscle guy lands a punch that literally crushes a monster's head. Gruesome, but also insanely satisfying in that action-packed way. The rest of the team is tearing through the goblins, swords swinging, spells flying, energy attacks lighting up the forest. Everything's going smoothly, and you can almost hear the adrenaline pumping. Harem moves behind them, lugging that massive bag, observing the fight. He's calm, analytical, thinking about the huge gap between ordinary humans and awakened beings. The carnage doesn't shake him. He's composed, ready. But then something feels off. Harem pauses. He notices the stones on the ground vibrating, hopping slightly. A classic sign in every action story. Something way bigger and way more dangerous is approaching. The team's about to realize that this simple level 1 monster mission might not be so simple after all. And Harem? He's about to face a threat that could test every bit of his skill, courage, and cleverness. Things just went from intense to absolutely terrifying. His red eyes glow, sweat forming on his brow. He's thinking, something's wrong. Level 1 monsters shouldn't be this loud. And then it hits him. There's something much worse here. And oh boy, he was not kidding. Suddenly, the ground erupts. Massive, jagged, scale-like structures shoot up from the forest floor, tearing through everything. Green and white energy crackles around them. The team and the other adventurers don't even have time to react before it's revealed. A giant serpent, no, a freaking titan python, emerges. Dark green scales, pale underbelly, glowing red eyes, and a tongue flickering like it's tasting the air for prey. The notification box pops up. Level 5 monster, Titan Python. That's right, level 5. Not level 1. Not level 2. Level 5. The kind of monster that can obliterate a whole squad in seconds. The adventurers freeze. 2 men and a woman, standing there with terror radiating off them like a dark aura. One of the men screams, F5 level monster Titan Python. The woman looks up at it from the ground, realizing the intel they were given was a total lie. They were supposed to face level 1 monsters, not this colossal nightmare. Harem doesn't waste a second. He yells at them, "What are you all waiting for? Run. You'll die if you stay here." His voice snaps them out of their fear-induced paralysis. The woman and the others finally bolt, sprinting desperately through the forest, dodging the massive coils of the Titan Python as it towers over them like a mountain. You get a full view and it's insane. The Titan Python dwarfs the forest canopy, its coils wrapping around the trees, crushing everything in its path. And the adventurers? Tiny silhouettes, running for their lives along its massive body. You can literally feel the scale and the danger. It's apocalyptic level chaos. So, the adventurers are running through the forest, trying to escape the Titan Python. But one of them, a spiky-haired captain, has a cold, horrifying plan. The others are panicking, yelling they can't outrun this monster. But the captain? He calmly suggests they need bait to distract it. And you can already feel the dread building. Harem, our protagonist, turns toward the captain, confused and questioning this twisted idea. But before he can react, the captain draws a small blade and, in one brutal motion, stabs Harem straight through the chest. Blood erupts everywhere. Harem's frozen in shock, his eyes wide, trembling, gasping, why? The captain doesn't hesitate. He cruelly explains that Harem is the only one who can't fight, the least valuable member of the group. Then he ups the horror, grabbing Harem by the throat and revealing he knows about his anomaly syndrome, that he's already dying. So, in the captain's eyes, Harem is perfect bait. And then, it gets worse. The captain lifts Harem high into the air by his throat, completely limp, blood dripping onto the forest floor. With a powerful throw, Harem is hurling through the air, straight toward the Titan Python. The captain even says, "Don't blame us. Blame yourself for being weak." Absolute cold-bloodedness. Harem lands in the monster's path, broken, bleeding, coughing up blood. He's alone, facing a towering serpentine dragon with glowing red eyes, its dark scales glinting ominously. The Titan Python's massive presence fills the forest, and now, Harem has no allies left, just his wits, courage, and sheer willpower to survive. The Titan Python is towering over Harem, pink eyes glowing, forked tongue flicking, and it lets out this massive hiss, jaws opening wide like it's about to end everything. Harem's bloodied, battered, coughing up blood, and he's thinking, damn it, is this really how it ends? The tension is unbearable. Then we flash back to his past. His mother, fatally wounded, impaled through the torso, pleading tearfully for him to protect his sister and survive. It hits you hard. This is the moment that shaped him. Back in the present, Harem collapses inside a glowing red magic circle. Blood everywhere, life slipping away, and then, suddenly, something supernatural happens. A massive indicates that the world is about to change, and it does. A pillar of red light shoots into the sky from an altar in a completely different location. People are watching, jaws dropped, as a silhouette forms inside the beam. And then, Harem stands there, fully restored. His injuries, gone. His blood, completely healed. And check out his new look, ornate, aristocratic vampire-style clothing, high red collar, fancy jabot. He's glowing with this eerie elegance. But he's confused. Where is he? What's going on? Unaware voices are freaking out too. They can't believe it. Apparently, a junk scroll actually worked to summon a man. Harem is alive, powerful, and in a completely new world. And let me tell you, this is the kind of twist that makes you sit up in your seat. From death to rebirth, from helpless human to something completely different. Harem is standing on the stone platform after being summoned by a junk scroll, and the crowd below? All female succubi, totally stunned. One even says, "He's so handsome." The camera pans, showing their reactions, blushing, swooning, totally captivated. They can feel the strong aura of magic he's giving off. Harem, of course, is completely confused, thinking, what the hell is going on? Why are there so many succubi here? Then a glowing status panel appears in front of him. Only he can see it. Stats pop up. Name: Lee Harem, level 1, class, Blood Demon race, Vampire, HP/MP, 100, attributes, all 10. A succubus explains she used an ancient summoning array, which even changed the color of the heavens. And then we meet the summoner herself. Level 3 monster, succubus Nico. Blonde hair, purple wings, black outfit, and yeah, she's blushing hard. She's smitten, pledges eternal loyalty, and basically becomes his first powerful ally in this new world. A holographic notification appears in mid-air. Pink, glowing, totally magical. The system tells Harem, "You have gained your first follower? Please check." And that's when he realizes his rebirth isn't random. It's tied to a unique game-like system. He taps the notification and sees the full profile of his first follower. Nico, a tier 3 succubus. She craves strength, admires powerful people, and her affection level is already 88%. Big reveal. When her affection hits 100%, he can add her to his harem and unlock a mysterious reward. That's Harem's aha moment. He finally understands the source of his power and why he was reincarnated. Then, he opens his own status panel. Even at level 1, his class is Blood Demon God, race Vampire. Floating screens surround him, showing stats and abilities. He's way beyond a normal human now. Meanwhile, Nico watches him, totally confused. To her, Harem looks like he's grabbing at thin air, interacting with invisible menus. She leans in, blushing, asking if he's feeling stiff after being asleep for so long, and even offers to help him stretch. Harem, stuck between his high-tech system and this affectionate, very real demon girl right in front of him. Now things get awkward and hilarious. Nico, the blonde succubus, approaches Harem and tells him he needs to stretch a little, and, well, she volunteers her own body to help him relax, blushing like crazy and saying it's her honor. She's nervous but determined, insisting she'll do her best, even though it's her first time. Of course, the other succubi notice immediately. A red-haired and a purple-haired succubus start getting jealous, calling Nico shameless for jumping ahead. One even complains, "I should be the one pleasing him. My chest is softer." Harem, completely overwhelmed, cold sweat, waving hands, shouting, "I'm not trying to take advantage of you." He's honestly baffled by how desperate these succubi are. But the system doesn't forgive mistakes. A digital notification pops up. Nico's affection has dropped from 88% to 85%. She looks crushed, wondering if she's simply not good enough for her master. Harem realizes he's made a tactical error. Affection is a core system mechanic, and if he wants to achieve his goal of revenge, he needs to keep these levels high. So he pivots, suddenly charming, slightly mischievous. Surrounded by a sparkling, he flirts and flatters Nico, telling her, "You're beautiful. All of you are beautiful." He leans in close, gazing into her eyes, saying he's never met anyone as unique as her. Nico, instantly swooning, blushing, stammering, Really?" And you can already feel her affection climbing back up. Nico's affection has just hit 90%, and she's flustered, calling Harem master. She admits she's still adjusting, having just been summoned. Harem, the blood demon god, looks weary and says bluntly, "I need energy." Nico immediately volunteers because, well, she wants to please her master, offering her blood. She tells him to drink as much as he needs, calling it an honor to have her blood flow through his veins. But as Harem prepares to feed, something snaps inside him. His eyes glow brighter, vampire instincts kicking in, a restlessness he can't control. And then the blood fusion. He bites her, and it's not just feeding. It's a full system-triggered reaction. Affection rises to 92%. Nico feels she's completely fused with her master. Harem unlocks a new skill. Blood fusion. He gets a permanent +1 strength boost. Afterward, the two stand together, Nico trembling and disheveled. Harem wiped clean but surprised at how efficient this method is. He realizes this works too, and knows he needs to explore this power further. Harem opens his skill panel and discovers a passive ability called Blood Fusion. The skill lets him absorb fresh blood from characters of the opposite sex to gain random attribute points. The catch is it only works once per target. He realizes the insane potential. Random stat gains bypass traditional leveling. With enough targets he can grow at incredible speed. Eyes glowing, he looks determined. He stands before a group of succubus-like subordinates, calls out to Nico declaring he needs more blood. He clarifies it isn't just Nico, but women's blood. The more the better. The demonic women blush, excited, intrigued, thinking this is a new game he wants to play. Harem smirks, tells them let's all do this together. The scene shows symbolic butterflies and flowers suggesting a time skip. A system notification pops up confirming success. System. Your attributes have increased. Stamina +1. Night falls over the quiet succubus village. Crescent moon above rustic cabins beside the mountain. Nico enters a room calling for Master Harem, believing he hid away earlier to finally unleash himself. She approaches a bed, craving the thrilling sensation ever since he left his mark, convinced this moment will turn her into a true succubus. She jumps onto the bed saying, "Here I come," but instantly freezes. Something feels wrong, far too hard. She pulls away the sheet and finds not Harem but a cold, lifeless object, a decoy left in his place. Her excitement collapses into confusion and frustration as she sighs at the stone substitute, asking bitterly if he has already found something more important than her. In a desolate blue graveyard, Harem opens his glowing pink status panel. Though only level 1, his power is already abnormal, class blood demon god, race vampire, strength 56, agility 43, stamina 52. After a full day absorbing blood, his foundation is solid, revenge driving him forward, real combat the only path to grow stronger. Remembering extermination squads and monster-filled zones, he decides to act as bait. He releases a massive surge of red magic and shouts for hidden enemies to come face him. The graveyard answers instantly. Eerie blue flames ignite. Distorted whispers fill the air asking, who dares disturb their eternal rest? Shadows gather and the enemies reveal themselves. multiple Tier 1 faceless ghosts hovering before him. Tall figures in torn white shrouds with hollow black eyes and a sickly green aura. The battle about to begin. They surround the intruder and a chilling voice rises from the gloom, warning that their eternal rest has been disturbed. Green aura thickening while blue spirit flames flicker through the air. Suddenly the ghosts shriek and attack, one lunging forward with a glowing claw while the young man with messy dark hair and a black trench coat calmly blocks the strike, scoffing that a mere Tier 1 monster cannot kill him. The swarm closes in from every direction, yet he moves with blinding speed at the center of the spectral storm. Red energy igniting as he counters and cuts through the spirits one after another, system text flashing that experience has been gained as if the deadly clash were only a game. His assault continues without pause, red trails carving the air until the final ghost falls and a brighter notification appears before him. Level up achieved. 5 attribute points earned. Awaiting allocation. System notifications flood his vision as the last monsters fall. He has leveled up and gained 5 attribute points. A new milestone appears. Skill unlocked, Crimson Flash, granting 2 rapid short-distance dashes within 5 seconds. A sharp rise in mobility. Beneath the crescent moon he exhales and smiles, finally feeling the power of an awakened. He pauses to review his growth, remembering the days he lived as a worthless porter. His status window opens, level 8, class Blood Demon God, race Vampire, 40 unallocated attribute points waiting. He considers agility but decides strength and stamina will give the fastest combat edge, especially after gaining an agility-based skill. The calm shatters as a danger warning erupts across his vision, a massive red alert signaling an approaching threat. A grotesque Tier 2 overseer emerges, a stitched, bloated giant gripping a huge cleaver while green energy radiates from its body. The monster slams the blade down and the ground explodes into fragments, but the protagonist barely evades, landing in a low crouch as he realizes the enormous Tier 2 butcher is far faster than its size suggests. He rockets into the air as a violent explosion tears the ground apart, a heavy iron chain caught in the blast showing the sheer force of the attack. Suspended midair, he twists smoothly to avoid the next strike, recalling that the earlier faceless ghost carried a green name, a sign of weak danger. A close look at his eyes reveals tension. This new enemy's name burns in yellow, the mark of an elite threat. Landing within the shadowed graveyard, he steadies his breath and reminds himself this is the second chance fate granted him. The story gets crazier next. Subscribe and turn on notifications. The truth appears at once. Not 1 but 2 towering Tier 2 butchers loom forward, stitched bodies bound in chains and armed with monstrous cleavers and hooks. A chilling close-up shows glowing green eyes before a massive cleaver crashes down, barely missing him. Refusing to retreat, he launches a fierce flying kick toward the creature's head. Yet the impact lands with a dull thud instead of real damage. His strike connects cleanly, but the monster remains unmoved. Gritting his teeth, he realizes his fists and kicks cannot harm a Tier 2 being at all, and as chains tighten around the battlefield, the sense of being cornered closes in. Airborne, the young vampire twists through whipping chains and a sweeping blood-stained scythe that tears the air apart. Then scarlet power ignites, crimson burn, sending him skidding in sparks to reposition for a counter. He quickly reads the battlefield, realizing the 2 butchers cover each other while his only weapon is a fragile broken iron sword. So he locks onto one target and decides the fight must end fast. The giant cleaver crashes down. Steel collides with shattered blade in a burst of sparks and shockwaves. Yet he refuses to yield, trusting the strength he heavily invested in. Crimson energy surges again. He moves faster than sight and delivers a decisive slash. Then silence. The butcher staggers back with weapons buried in its torso, not dead but clearly shaken, proving even a Tier 2 monster can be forced onto the defensive by his overwhelming power. The monster panics, scanning the darkness. Then a cold voice drops from above, mocking its confusion as moonlight splits and the warrior descends in a blazing cross of light, blade raised, eyes burning red, judgment already sealed. Steel falls with a lethal cry, impact erupts in crimson force and shadow, and the giant is overwhelmed in a single devastating strike. Silence follows with the victor standing atop the collapsing body, stunned that one enemy pushed him 2 levels higher, the thrill of true combat beginning to consume him. The system answers with level 10 and a new power, Blood Prison Burial, able to trap foes in a blood swamp and unleash piercing blades. But the moment of triumph barely lasts, because another Stitch Tier 2 horror rises from the gloom beside a second creature, only for the hero to remain floating, calm and certain, realizing their threat has already fallen behind him as he coldly declares they are no longer his match. Horan calmly confronts the Stitch giant and declares it no longer a threat as the chained scythe slams down again and again, each strike missing while he slips past with effortless precision, coldly mocking the monster's slow and predictable movements learned from years of watching battles as a porter. Then without hesitation he ends it, Blood Prison Burial. A crimson pool spreads beneath the creature, locking it in place before towering spikes of hardened blood erupt upward and instantly. Pierced through the giant, silence follows as a system message appears: level up. 5 attribute points awarded, and staring at the destruction he created so easily, he feels a faint chill realizing the most frightening power on the battlefield may now be his own. System notification flashes. New title, Undead Slayer. Horan blinks, realizing even the title system is active. Another alert explains the perk, plus 5% damage against undead. Checking his status panel, level 11 Blood Demon God, Vampire Race, Strength maxed at 100. He reflects that the risks paid off in eyes catching up to Chun Zizhen. A new soundings, daily quest generated. The system commands: absorb fresh blood from at least one opposite-sex character before sunrise to trigger blood fusion. Warning: each target works once and failure deducts 5 attribute points. Panic sets in. He drained all the succubi yesterday and is now in a wasteland with no targets, groaning at the terrible penalty. Then he notices a defeated pale ghost-like female enemy on the ground, upside down and blood-stained, and a grin forms. Technically she counts as an opposite-sex character, her blood will work, and the quest can be completed. The protagonist grins, fangs flashing, spotting blood on a white garment and declaring, "Perfect! Her blood should work." A red system warning immediately flashes. Target blood has rotted. Unable to trigger blood fusion. He stares dejected at the pale, limp figure. Refusing to quit, he hauls a faceless ghost through the forest, hoping another will work, but every attempt triggers the same failure. Target blood has rotted, piling up and fueling his frustration. Clutching his head, he realizes his plan's flaw. The undead blood was never fresh, cursing his greed from draining all the succubi yesterday. A surge of red energy erupts as he screams, "I need a woman! Find one out here!" Meanwhile, in a rustic cabin, pink hearts float as Nico sighs, lost in longing, blushing intensely, feeling his presence as if in his arms, before her eyes widen. She senses Master Howren's overwhelming aura nearby. Nico jolts upright, sensing Master Howren's presence and knowing he needs her immediately. Outside, a black G-Wagon speeds through dusty woods, 2 suited men discussing their long, fruitless search while tracking a strange magical surge linked to a rare monster species, seeing it as a career-making opportunity. The silver-haired leader in the back scolds their hesitation, stressing the company must act before competitors. As the vehicle screeches to a halt, a dark-haired young man in a high-collared black and red outfit appears in their path, surprised by the humans, while they confirm his magical signature matches their target. 2 suited men step from a black SUV, confirming the target's magical signature matches, though it's only Tier 2. The dark-haired, red-eyed protagonist glares, realizing he's being hunted. A high-heeled step reveals their leader, Li Shuer, a gold lower class awakened with silver hair and purple eyes, who orders her subordinates to handle him and stuff him in the trunk. The protagonist smirks, unfazed by her gold-tier status. Two bronze upper-class subordinates approach with weapons, but he activates Crimson Curse. A red energy swirl erupts, and in a blur he vanishes and reappears behind Li Shuer, catching her off guard and completely reversing the fight. Li Shuer is shocked and flushed as the protagonist holds her from behind. She's never been in a situation like this. Her follower react in anger, shouting at him to release their leader. Li Shuer demands his intentions, sweating and blushing, while he, driven by instinct, apologizes briefly. "I can't help myself." He bites her neck, a small droplet of blood appearing. System notification. Daily quest completed. Your attributes have increased. Strength +1. Showing he gains power from completing tasks. Li Shuer in a white blouse and pink blazer blushes furiously, shouting that he's spouting nonsense and denying any hypocrisy. Yet the bashful aura behind her betrays a hidden soft spot. Watching closely, the red-eyed young man realizes her hesitation means she may not truly want him dead, giving him a slim chance to escape until sudden danger strikes. A glowing golden card slices through the forest with a sharp whoosh, but before it can hit him, she instantly steps in, deflecting the attack with her own card and standing protectively in front of him, now serious and wrapped in a blue aura as she demands the coward in the shadows reveal themselves. Two figures emerge. A green-haired man in a suit holding multiple cards and a flashy, shorter boy in gold chains, calmly claiming they only came to help her decide, with the green-haired gold upper-class user Yuan suggesting she hand the boy over to their elite center. Faced with two red-tier enemies, one gold lower class and one gold upper class, the protagonist sweats in despair, realizing the overwhelming odds and groaning that somehow everyone wants him dead today. Li Shuer stands protectively before the messy-haired young man and defiantly rejects the shadowy elite center figures, declaring her Red City group found him first and will never hand over their prey. Unbothered, the young man flatters her as beautiful, noble, and cold, triggering a system notice that Li Shuer's affection rises to 40%. And though blushing, she hardens her resolve, glowing with blue aura as she warns they must defeat her to take him. He praises her overwhelming presence and reassures himself that their suited allies can handle the sleazy opponents, pushing her affection to 45%, while across the field the green-haired man in a suit abandons negotiation, summoning glowing magic cards and blaming her for what comes next. Blue energy surges, cards slice through the forest air, and the confrontation erupts into open battle. The battle erupts as Li Shuer raises a single finger and unleashes Blizzard, a violent storm of blue frost that swallows the battlefield, forcing the green-haired man to shield his eyes while the red-capped youth stands calmly inside a barrier, watching the snow melt before touching him and realizing she is reshaping the terrain to her advantage. She studies his composure, judging him a true threat, then suddenly shifts tactics, leaping skyward with sharp agility and ordering her subordinates to guard the boy and prevent escape as the sky darkens with swirling snow and radiant blue streaks, her eyes glowing while she chants Song of Ice, pouring out her full power until a colossal thorned pillar of frozen crystal, Polar Rose, bursts from the ground toward the heavens. The story gets crazier next. Subscribe and turn on notifications. Blooming beneath her as she hovers above the frozen devastation and looks down on her trapped enemies. A colossal crystalline ice rose descends from the sky, glowing with lethal frost as the green-haired Zhang Ji looks up and scoffs at the idea of a flower being used as a weapon. But his arrogance shatters the instant the rose crashes down in a thunderous boom, erupting jagged ice spikes and freezing energy across the battlefield. Nearby Red City fighters cheer too early, convinced their side still holds the advantage, until the frost clears to reveal Zhang Ji completely sealed inside a massive block of ice, humiliated and helpless while a red-capped youth steps forward to mock him for being defeated so easily and wonders how he will explain getting wrecked by a woman. Above them all, the white-haired ice queen in a pink cape stands atop the frozen structure with absolute dominance and coldly declares they are next. Yet before panic can settle in, glowing heart-tipped arrows suddenly streak through the air, striking the remaining suited henchmen and leaving them stunned. The whimsical love attack ending the clash with mocking finality. Two fighters suddenly stand frozen as lifeless stone statues in the forest, leaving the white-haired woman and the red-capped youth staring in shock and confusion until the boy senses another presence and shouts that a new challenger has arrived. A flash of light erupts and Nico appears with spreading succubus wings, rushing straight into Haren's arms with tearful devotion as pink hearts swirl around them, explaining she felt his need and came instantly, her loyalty absolute while he praises her warmly, the battlefield turning awkwardly affectionate in front of stunned enemies. Watching this intimate reunion, the white-haired woman trembles with rising anger, trying to deny her jealousy yet clearly unable to endure their closeness, and at last she bursts into motion, leaping into the air with her cloak flaring as she yells for them to stop and demands that Haren immediately restore the two petrified companions to normal, her fury cutting sharply through the romantic tension. A red-capped youth wearing a heavy gold chain moves with terrifying speed, shocking his opponents as he casually mocks them for striking his people, then releases a crushing shockwave that sends everyone reeling and reveals the overwhelming truth. He is a gold upperclass awakened far beyond their level, a realization that chills Haren and Nico as the boy boasts that capturing a rare vampire and succubus will finally earn his father's approval. With death closing in, Haren recalls a system rule that reaching 100% affection with a follower unlocks an unknown reward and decides to gamble everything on it. But before any plan can unfold, the smiling attacker advances and promises Nico she won't feel a thing, her desperate volley of heart-shaped arrows shattering uselessly against his golden aura as he flips effortlessly through the assault and lunges to end the battle, until a final prompt ignites in crimson light. Skill activated, Crimson Flash. Crimson Flash ignites and the dark-haired protagonist vanishes with Nico in his arms, reappearing deep within the woods while the red-capped hunter stands stunned in drifting dust, unable to believe a mere Tier 2 moved faster than his sight. But the escape is fragile. Both flashes are spent, no path to run remains, and survival now depends on unlocking a mysterious system reward tied to Nico's affection, frustrating him when saving her brings no immediate increase as she instead blames herself for being useless and vows to do better, pushing him to make a ruthless calculation as he suddenly pulls her close and kisses her despite the deadly enemy nearby. Nico shocked yet yielding out of devotion while heartbeats and sparkles flood the moment, until a pink notification appears. System. Nico's affection 99%, signaling the brink of a decisive power-up. Battle frozen mid-chaos as the dark-haired master kisses Nico in the forest while their red-capped, gold aura opponent rages at the sight, veins bulging as he explodes with power that cracks the ground beneath him and charges to kill them before the system countdown finishes. The protagonist realizes he is only 1% away from a critical breakthrough but has no time, until a towering extreme ice shield erupts around the couple, deflecting the attack and revealing the leash wearer who coldly declares the vampire is hers to claim, forcing a tense standoff while the enemy fumes. In that single stolen moment, the system window finally flashes. Nico's affection 100%, leaving Nico flushed, breathless, and overwhelmed with devotion as the completed milestone signals a coming power surge that could completely reverse the battle. Peak Blood unlocks as a one-time mysterious reward, granting the full attributes and skills of the Blood Demon God for 10 minutes. Red energy spirals around the gothic-clad protagonist as the ground shatters and a colossal crimson pillar erupts skyward, shockwaves tearing across the forest while stunned onlookers tremble in fear, and the red-capped enemy realizes the Tier 2 monster he mocked now radiates overwhelming dominance. Calm and indifferent, the transformed vampire invites an attack that never comes, then activates Demon Hand. An unseen force hoists gold upperclass U1 into the air before a glowing crimson grip closes around his throat, crushing his resistance and leaving him choking out desperate pleas for mercy as absolute power finally shifts into the protagonist's hands. U1, the gold upperclass fighter who once stood arrogant, now trembles in terror and begs for his life as the calm, red-eyed protagonist coldly notes the sudden change in tone, seizes him by the throat, and lifts him effortlessly while the defeated man cries that he was blind to such overwhelming strength. In that moment, the protagonist feels a flash of déjà vu, recalling when he himself was once treated like worthless trash. Yet mercy never comes. Surrounded by a raging crimson aura, he rejects forgiveness, hurls Yuan away, then follows with a devastating strike that blasts through his body and sends him crashing violently through a massive wall, shattering stone and ice in a catastrophic explosion that leaves the battlefield consumed by debris and the enemy utterly overwhelmed. Yuan, the so-called gold upper-class fighter, lies in the dust with torn clothes and broken pride, coughing helplessly, while the red-eyed protagonist calmly stands in his dark vampire cloak, realizing the overwhelming power of the blood demon god, and enjoying the feeling of looking down on others as two shocked women watch in disbelief, one questioning if he is the same little vampire and the horned succubus trembling while calling him master. Suddenly Zhang Zhu, a gold lower-class fighter, bursts from void energy, claiming he was only sealed by carelessness, and releases a fierce green aura vowing to stop holding back, but the protagonist answers with silence, spreading his cloak as a massive swarm of screeching black bats floods the battlefield, tearing into Zhang Zhi's body as he panics in disgust before the shadows and blood-red energy completely engulf him, leaving nothing visible inside the crushing sphere. The battlefield falls silent as the remains of a defeated gold-tier enemy crumble into a skeleton on the forest floor, Crimson system notifications flashing wildly to announce multiple level-ups and newly gained attribute points. Calm and composed, the red-eyed protagonist checks his status and discovers he has risen 5 levels in a single leap, unlocking a devastating new skill, Red Storm, capable of unleashing a massive bat swarm that devours everything in its path. Not far away, the arrogant young man in the red cap and rich gold chain is reduced to trembling fear, begging desperately for mercy as the protagonist approaches with suffocating pressure and cold mockery. Clinging to hope, he blurts out that his father is the president of the elite center and promises anything in exchange for his life. With chilling politeness, the protagonist pretends to be kind, offering to help him go home. Overwhelmed with relief, the victim gratefully believes he has been spared, until invisible force lifts him helplessly into the sky. With a casual farewell, the protagonist hurls him across the horizon like a blazing comet of red light. Far in the distance, 2 stunned onlookers watch the streak tear through the sky toward City J, realizing the cruel truth behind that so-called kindness. The man is indeed going home, just not alive when he arrives. Li Shuer in a pink blazer stares toward the distant mountains and suddenly realizes the blazing trajectory in the sky is heading straight for City J, while the winged succubus behind her stays tense and alert. Across a snowy mountain range, an orange-red beam tears through the air with thunderous booms, racing forward until it reaches the dense city skyline and slams violently into a white high-rise, triggering a massive explosion that scatters debris everywhere. Back in the forest clearing, Master Harem stands calmly within a shallow crater as multiple red system windows appear to announce a level up and 5 new attribute points. His red aura pulsing while he reflects that higher levels seem to require increasingly more experience. Curious to test a new power, he calls for Nico's cooperation, making Li Shuer nervous while the excited succubus floats with hearts in her eyes and happily agrees to anything her master wishes. The story gets crazier next. Subscribe and turn on notifications. As the skill's soul resonance activates, pink and crimson energy spirals around Nico's body, her eyes widening as she undergoes a mysterious transformation and forms a deep magical connection with Harem. Nico suddenly trembles as an overwhelming surge of power gathers in her chest, her flushed face twisting in distress while she cries that something inside her is about to burst. Unaware a legendary weapon is forming within her body. A glowing crimson hilt slowly emerges from her chest, and in shock she realizes it is Master Harem's sword, begging him to pull it out gently as the light intensifies. Calm and unfazed, Harem grips the hilt and reassures her that this is the natural result of their soul resonance, then steadily draws out a massive red blade crackling with violent energy. The narration reveals that true soul resonance only occurs when a follower's affection reaches its absolute peak, transforming their power into a unique weapon, and Harem smirks as he recognizes the completed armament as the Bloodblade Bradshaw. Nearby, CONQUERE watches in stunned fear, sweating as she questions why someone already so powerful would even need such a weapon, anxiously wondering if he created it solely to finish her off. The scene kicks off with CONQUERE challenging Harem, asking if he's planning to finish her with his sword, but Harem just smirks, dismissing it as overthinking, then lightning fast. He unleashes a red energy strike that isn't meant to wound but to shred her outer clothes. Jacket and skirt explode into fragments, leaving her trembling in lingerie. She screams, "Why are you undressing me?" Harem stays calm, calls it a warm-up, and orders her to follow him into the nearby woods. The forest glows around them as she panics internally, flushed and nervous, thinking, "A man and a woman alone. What is he planning?" While Harem stands silently, sword on his shoulder, intentions a complete mystery. CONQUERE suddenly blushes, convinced Harem spared her because he's fallen for her beauty, imagining all kinds of romantic scenarios. But Harem just looks at her with a confused, as if he has no clue what she's thinking. She notes despite being a monster, he's actually handsome. Her mind races imagining her first time with him, face flushed, eyes wide, internally screaming it's against her morals, but she doesn't pull away. Then reality hits as Harem leans close and commands, "Whatever I say next, repeat after me," forcing her to swear eternal loyalty as his subordinate. She stammers but repeats it. The system pops up announcing he gained his second follower and shows her stats. Name: CONQUERE. Race: human, evolution. Gold lower class. Traits: powerful, competitive, likes dominant men, affection. 45%. Harem smiles satisfied, still leaning close, while CONQUERE panics, flushed, unsure of his true intentions. CONQUERE blushes hard, heart racing as she expects a kiss, thinking it's moving too fast. Then Harem steps back, coldly saying the reward ends here, telling her the petrification on her subordinates will wear off and ordering her to leave. He leans in briefly to warn her not to tell anyone. She stammers, He turns and walks through the forest, bored, asking what now? Still not satisfied? Leaving her half undressed and flustered, she shivers alone, clutching herself. Later the protagonist his coat on her, glowing with romantic aura, thinking about his warmth and scent. The system pops up. CONQUERE affection 60%. Then the scene shifts to a crescent-lit succubus village. Harem sits on his bed, exhausted but thrilled. Level 21 unlocked with new skills. 2 glowing red panels float before him, showing his class Blood Demon God and title Undead Slayer. He checks blood concealment for invisibility and health restore on attack. Feeling the rush of getting stronger, system pops up warning he can now enter the blood prison arena. No XP gained and injuries won't heal between floors. He hesitates but decides to push forward. Commands, "Open the blood prison arena." A massive red portal erupts. He stands silhouetted in the glow, smirks with glowing red eyes, remembering fortune favors the bold. Steps into the swirling vortex onto a rippling red energy surface, officially entering the arena dimension. Harem checks Knight's two-handed sword plus 30 strength minus 10 agility, heart-piercing dagger plus 30 agility, sun shield boosting stamina and spirit, mighty battle axe balance strength and stamina, paralyzed by indecision with no weapon skills. Then spots the long-threaded cucumber with no stats but special effect. Poking enemies makes them spasm, laughs at the ridiculous choice but sees its broken potential. Picks it enthusiastically. System prompts final buff. Options. Armor breaker lowers enemy defense 1% per hit, potion restores 30% health, equipment forge gives random gear. He picks armor breaker for synergy with repeated pokes. System confirms buff activated and teleports him to the blood arena. The scene opens on a massive circular coliseum. Booming announcer explains 50 floors each with a unique defender. To progress you must defeat them all. Perspective shifts to the commentator's booth. A playful teal-haired fairy with bat wings and high heels and denim shorts introduces today's challenger. Harem, a vampire with scarlet power, called a total newbie despite his rare race. Lee stands annoyed in the arena with a wooden practice sword. First-floor defender Benhida emerges from a dark gate, a banshee in a tattered wedding dress with veil, floating skulls and blue spirit flames chilling the scene. She doesn't attack immediately, weeps with purple celestial eyes, tells Lee, "I speak to the dead. I sense overwhelming death around you. I wail for you." Lee notices the system power ranking is missing above her name, worried the arena or her power is breaking the display. Cliffhanger leaves tension as he faces an unmeasured opponent. Harem activates skill, Red Storm. Dark jagged bats erupt around him, aiming at the banshee in her bridal gown. She's trapped in the shadow vortex. She counters with a massive purple X-slash, shredding the bats, emerges unscathed with black clawed hands mocking him, vanishes in a blur and reappears behind him ready to strike, declaring the fight over. Harem reveals he baited her into close range, pulls out a giant glowing green weapon declaring, "My long threaded cucumber." The banshee goes from confident to terrified, screams, "I'd rather not get poked by that," and does an impossible vertical split to dodge the vegetable attack. Harem's battle goes fully absurd as his weapon is revealed. A giant green cucumber. A spectator calls him weird. A blue-haired batwing demon girl Benhida clearly hates stick-shaped objects. Harem closes the distance and hoists her into an awkward split. Benhida panics and cries she can't move. Her high heel slips with heart-pounding dollar-pack-dollar effects. Harem leans in, admitting even he didn't expect the cucumber to work. Taunts her for losing composure at the sight of it. Finally he stands over her in red and white aristocratic attire, smirking with a fiery aura, declaring, "You're not getting away." Banshida refuses to surrender and instead releases a low, vibrating wail that instantly wipes the smug look off my face as a terrifying aura erupts around her. She rises into the air with purple hair flowing while shockwaves and musical notes explode outward. The sheer force slams me into a stone wall, and I realize too late that I completely underestimated her power. The spectators identify the move as her ultimate attack, Alpha Howl. A supernatural scream that doesn't just crush the body but pierces the mind. My vision blurs. My head feels like it's splitting apart. I collapse to my knees in agony as the howl invades my thoughts and everyone watching believes the fight is already over. I suddenly find myself in a quiet celestial realm where a familiar woman stands with her back turned and greets me with gentle warmth, saying it has been a long time, and the moment she turns and I see her kind face and red eyes identical to mine, my heart breaks as I whisper that she is my mother. She smiles, calls me an idiot for doubting her, and reaches out promising eternal bliss where we will never be separated again. But as I step closer, the sky darkens, thunder gathers, and her voice shifts into something desperate and demanding, urging me to take her hand. So I stop, close my eyes, and remember the real suffering of my life, the betrayals, the near death, the disease, and most of all the truth that my real mother sacrificed her life to save me and my sister so we could keep living, not escape into a false dream. My eyes snap open, burning with resolve as power erupts from my body, and I roar that it was so I could live, instantly shattering the illusion and leaving the hidden banshee behind the mental world, trembling in shock as her trap collapses under my will. The moment the chaos peaks, someone screams that it's impossible as my green makeshift weapon tears through the air and shatters the incoming dark power, proving I've completely withstood the Alpha Howl. I stand calmly in the skull-filled arena wrapped in a cold red aura and tell her I already understand her strength, and now it's my turn as I activate hidden blood art and vanish from sight, forcing the banshee into panic as she unleashes an even more brutal beta howl that rains destructive energy across the entire arena in a desperate attempt to hit me even while invisible. The story gets crazier next. Subscribe and turn on notifications. But before the attack can fully consume everything, I suddenly reappear right in front of her, and without hesitation shove the cucumber straight into her open mouth, instantly silencing the scream, breaking the technique, and leaving her frozen in humiliation while system prompts show her defense dropping and my health rising. And as shocked spectators realize I just destroyed her ultimate move, I can only sigh in boredom and mutter how annoyingly easy that was. I tell her it's still not over and that the real show is just beginning as I charge forward with the strange green weapon in my hand, bursting into a relentless barrage while the system flashes white upgrade defense break and her status fills with endless notices of her defense dropping 1% again and again. She starts sweating in disbelief, unable to understand how something as ridiculous as a cucumber could crush her like this, but when she begs that she can't endure anymore, I coldly answer that my attack hasn't even finished and continue without mercy until the weapon's secondary effect triggers and throws her body into uncontrollable spasms while the constant strikes keep shredding what little defense she has left. Her senses spiral into chaos as the graveyard-like battlefield burns around us, and then a final surge detonates in a massive explosion before the smoke fades to reveal me standing calmly above her broken state, looking down with quiet dominance and asking, almost casually, if she still wants me to continue. I stand over her broken body in the shattered crater, watching the system spam target defense reduced by 1% again and again as I coldly ask if she still wants me to continue. She trembles, cries, and finally begs me to stop, saying she gives up. And in that moment the entire blood hell arena falls silent while the winged referee overlooking the skull-covered battlefield declares my victory and announces that I, Harem, have earned the right to challenge the second level. Glowing red reward screens unfold before me, granting abnormal state resistance plus 10 and 11 skill points. And I can't help but feel satisfied knowing this arena was the perfect choice to grow stronger. But just as the system asks whether I wish to proceed to the next level, I pause, realizing my condition hasn't fully recovered yet. So instead of rushing forward, I reach toward the no option, choosing survival and preparation over reckless ambition. I stare at the floating interface inside the ruined Colosseum as it asks whether I want to challenge the second floor of the Blood Prison Arena, and even after winning I stay calm because I know my body hasn't fully recovered. So instead of letting pride drag me into another reckless fight, I press no and decide my real priority is leveling up before returning. The moment the choice is made, a red vortex swallows me and throws me back into a quiet mountain village at night where a sudden notification appears telling me I've unlocked the hidden skill winners pact. Confused about why it activated only after leaving the arena, I open the skill bar and feel my heartbeat rise as the description reveals that every opponent I defeat in the arena can become my follower, and outside I can summon them to fight for me. And in that instant I realized that once I climb past level 50 I could command an entire army of former enemies. But before I can think further, a strange familiar sound draws me toward a wooden house. I push the door open and freeze as Aniko stands inside, blushing with hearts floating around her, staring at me in a dazed excitement while whispering that Master's scent has grown even stronger, leaving me caught completely off guard by her sudden appearance and overwhelming reaction. Seeing me, Nico, on my bed, completely flustered, sweating and blushing as she panics and stutters that it's not what it looks like and she definitely wasn't doing anything strange. Then she finally reveals the truth and shows me a brand new black and red coat she stayed up all night sewing because I gave my old one away. And for a moment I'm genuinely touched, so I gently pat her head and tell her I was just wondering how to get new clothes and that I really can't be without her, promising to treasure the gift. But the second I leave, she drifts into wild romantic delusions surrounded by floating hearts, convincing herself my simple gratitude was a full confession and that I want her to serve me forever. And before that ridiculous fantasy can even settle, the mood shatters as a scream echoes across the village about orcs attacking, the scene turning dark as a demon girl is captured and tied up helplessly, until a massive armored green orc carrying a giant battle axe stomps forward and orders his forces to pillage everything and leave nothing behind. The village falls into chaos as slave orcs with glowing red eyes rampage under the command of a massive armored leader, their raid already successful with several succubus women captured, tightly bound and left helpless while the monsters plunder grain, gold, and treasure, the commander roaring orders to secure every prisoner and leave no chance of escape. But just as their victory seems certain, a sudden storm of glowing heart-shaped arrows crashes into the horde and drops them with lethal precision, throwing the orc ranks into confusion as their leader demands to know who dares interfere. and from the forest Nico steps forward wrapped in a powerful pink aura. Her voice cold as she calls them repulsive scum and orders them to release her people and abandon the village or face death. Yet the arrogant commander only sneers at her warning and questions what power she could possibly have against him. Then, without hesitation, he signals the attack and the slave orcs burst from the trees in a coordinated mid-air ambush to surround her completely. But even encircled, she remains perfectly calm, as if the real battle has only just begun. The battlefield shifts the moment a terrifying skill activates. Blood Interment LV.2. Without warning, massive crimson spikes burst from the earth like living spears, instantly impaling the surrounding orcs. Their ambush collapses in seconds as glowing system prompts announcing EXP increase stack endlessly, proving the enemies were nothing more than effortless prey. At the center of the carnage stands a stunned succubus, watching the blood thorns move with a will of their own. Now upgraded, the technique automatically hunts multiple targets at once, turning the battlefield into a silent execution ground. Recognition spreads among the survivors, and a trembling voice finally cries out the truth. It's Harem-sama! Through the fading dust, he appears, calm, composed, and utterly irritated, dressed in his aristocratic black and red coat. He walks forward as if the massacre around him is nothing but a minor inconvenience, annoyed that the noise disturbed his rest. An orc centurion, a level 3 mutant beast, steps forward to challenge him, demanding to know why a vampire would side with succubi. The creature tries to threaten him, to force him away through sheer brutality, but Howren doesn't even slow his steps. Then his eyes ignite. A deep crimson glow burns within them as a dark, violent aura erupts outward, swallowing the battlefield in pressure alone. His voice falls cold and final. You've annoyed me too much. Now, it's too late for regrets. This is no rescue. This is punishment. And to end it completely, he calls forth something far more dreadful. From the air above the battlefield, a ghostly figure begins to descend. A mournful banshee, crowned and draped in torn white, purple tears falling endlessly from her eyes. Musical echoes spiral around her as a dark magic circle blooms beneath her feet, signaling a power meant not for battle, but for annihilation. The orcs' invasion is already over. They just haven't realized it yet. Howren's counterattack begins with brutal force as he strikes the armored orc, blood erupting while he coldly questions whether slaughtering, looting, and burning can truly be called the honor of their race. Then standing over the wounded warrior, he dismisses that twisted pride as something far too cheap to matter. Without pause, he slams his hand into the ground to trigger a new technique, flips into a violent inverted kick that crushes the orc's chest and forces blood from its mouth, and unleashes a massive crescent wave of power known as Red Storm, dark bats swirling around his Victorian-clad figure as the battlefield is swallowed in crimson energy. Even while battered, the orc chieftain stubbornly boasts about his perfect defense and blames his defeat on a strange disruptive cry, but a close look at Howren's glowing red eyes exposes the hypocrisy. An army raids a village yet still demands a fair duel. How naive. The source of that disruption is revealed as the purple-haired banshee sustaining alpha howl to shatter enemy focus while a Nico forms radiant loving light projectiles. And in the next instant pink-white explosions consume the field, signaling the complete collapse of the orc invasion. The battlefield opens with a brutal finish as the massive horned orc staggers back drenched in blood, barely standing against Howren, whose red eyes glow beneath his vampiric coat while his hand burns with a crimson aura, and he coldly declares that being lenient to your enemy is being cruel to yourself. Then without hesitation, blood-red stakes explode from the earth and impale the orc midair as he finishes it instantly, stating that striking when the opponent is weak is the true rule of combat. With the threat erased, system notifications flood in announcing his level up and 5 new attribute points, and just like that, the ruthless warrior turns calm. The story gets crazier next. Subscribe and turn on notifications.